was exhausted. Anyway, so Franchise Friday this week, as you might have gathered, is going to be this, Indiana Jones. Okay? Now, if you haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones films, shame on you, because it's a great franchise. 5 films from 1981 up to 2023. First 4, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And then the final one, they were executive producers. It was directed by James Mangold, who did the final Hugh Jackman Wolverine film, Logan, which was great. Okay, so 5 main films. So starting off with Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is my personal favourite of the 5 films. Then you've got The Temple of Doom, followed by The Last Crusade, followed by Legend of the Crystal Skulls, which I think is the worst of the 5 films. James disagrees. And then finally, you've got Dial of Destiny from 2023. So year-wise, the original was supposed to be cast back in 1936. The original film was set in 36. The second film, Temple of Doom, quite interestingly, at the time, both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were going through some trauma in their personal lives with their relationships. So they did find that they went a bit darker with the second one. A bit like Empire Strikes Back, again, George Lucas. So, yeah, it's a lot much darker. And one of the scenes in the film, there's a scene where a guy gets his heart ripped out in the film. And that led to the creation of the PG-13 rating in America in 1984, which is when the second film came out. Then you got 5 years later, you've then got 1989, The Last Crusade. The Last Crusade, now that was set slightly later than the previous 2, so that was 1938, because the Nazis were back involved as they are in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then you've got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull, that was set in 1957. And then the final film, Dial of Destiny, that comes you all the way forward into 1969, where you see Indiana Jones retiring as his high school professor that he is throughout all the films. Like I say, brilliant films. Harrison Ford, one of the all-time favourites. Han Solo from Star Wars, if you want to put him in something else. But I've always loved Harrison Ford. He's always been great. Always been a good watch. But throughout the films, you have other people. You have Sean Connery in The Last Crusade as his dad. Aaron Allen is his love interest, Marion, and she goes full circle from Raiders all the way into Dial of Destiny, and there's a great role reversal switch, something that's said back in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then they switch places, and she says it to him in Dial of Destiny, and me being a bit nostalgic and a bit of an idiot, I found that a bit sort of teary, but anyway. But I'm mainly going to concentrate on Raiders, like I say, because Raiders is, in my opinion, the best of the 5 films, and I'll give you my ratings at the end. So Raiders is basically set around Indiana Jones trying to get his hands on the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is a biblical artifact that they say contained the tablets that Moses brought down from the mountain. They're in there, and the Nazis think if they get hold of the Ark of the Covenant, they'll be able to change the course of the war. Because obviously by this point, they're starting to think about entering war in blah, 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 and basically taking over the world. So that's what they want the Ark of the Covenant for. It was also nominated for 9 Oscars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, winning 4. The 4 were, do excuse me, so I did write it down, were art direction, film editing, sound and visual effects, because the visual effects in it are amazing from 1981. I mean, if you haven't seen the film, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's the scene at the end where the Nazis are confronted by the sheer power of the Ark, and it's just great. Absolutely great. I don't know if James is going to drop some pictures in from that or a little bit from it, but yeah, it's just awesome. Really, really good. It's a bit horror related, of course, so that's why I absolutely love that part of the film. But all the way through, so basically Indiana Jones is trying to beat the Nazis, but it's one man against the Nazi Empire, if you like. And it's filmed across different locations. And there's a famous scene in it where he goes up against a guy with a sword. And this part was filmed in Tunisia. Now, there were some issues when they were filming in Tunisia because it was so hot. It was like over 130 degrees while they're filming in Tunisia. So a lot of the crew were getting ill, and falling ill with dysentery, including Harrison Ford. So the idea behind the scene where this guy comes out of the crowd with this massive sword, the idea originally was that Indy was supposed to do a long sort of fight scene where he uses his bullwhip. But because Harrison Ford was suffering from dysentery, he just said to George Lucas, he was like, can I not just shoot him? Which is precisely what you see in the film. The guy comes out of his big sword, waves it around laughing, and then Indy pulls his gun out and just shoots him, which is great. And he gets a massive cheer at the cinema, which is great. But the other interesting thing with Indiana Jones is that originally it wasn't meant to be Harrison Ford. Believe it or not, it was supposed to be Tom Selleck. Now, Tom Selleck in the early 80s was doing a TV show called Magnum P.I. set in Hawaii. And it was because of his commitment to that TV show that he turned the role down. And then Lucas and Spielberg decided after watching Harrison Ford in The Empire Strikes Back, he was like, yep, that's the guy that I want. So there we go. So that's why you then got Harrison Ford rather than Tom Selleck, which I think is great. Because although Tom Selleck's great, his moustache get in the way. But there we are, as James will attest to, because he's got a big moustache himself. Anyway, so going back to the films, like I say, Temple of Doom was great. That's all about Hinduism and Indian history. And originally that got banned from being filmed in India due to stereotypical how the Indian people live. And the Indian government didn't like it, so they had to move the filming from India to Sri Lanka to actually film it. So that was done there. That was all about the Thuggy cult and the goddess of Kali. And during the film, you see there's like a cult underneath the temple, and Indiana Jones goes in and he manages to save all the children because they need to get back these sacred stones to a village. They're called the Sankara stones. Have to take them back to the village so the village can then get back to its prosperity. Like the crops will get better again. They'll have water. It'll rain. When they took took the stone away from the village, that's how it fell into disrepute, and all the children got kidnapped to work in the mines underneath the temple. Good film, not as strong as the first one, and like I say, it does have quite a lot of dark undertones, like a bit like The Empire Strikes Back. But as I said before, that's due to issues in the lives of Lucas and Spielberg. So that's a good film, but I say not as good as the first. Then you've got The Last Crusade. Again, it's Indiana Jones, this time with his dad, played by Sean Connery, and they're up against the Nazis looking for the Holy Grail. One of James's favourites. It's a good solid 7, 8 out of 10, but not my favourite of the lot. Then you've got Legend of the Crystal Skulls. I've seen the film once and I've not watched it again because I just found it quite tedious, I've got to be honest. It has its moments, but it also has some really stupid moments, like there's a nuclear explosion and Indy hides in a refrigerator to stop himself from being killed. And I thought, well, that's a bit chinny reckon, isn't it? So, not a massive fan. Plus it's got Shia LaBeouf in it, and I'm not a massive Shia LaBeouf fan, I think it's a bit of a cock. But, hey, there we are. And then the fourth one, which was right up to date with Dial of Destiny. That's all about Archimedes' dial that can basically change the course of history. So you can use the Dial of Destiny and it becomes like a time machine that takes you back to certain points in history. Really well done. Also got Mads Mikkelsen in as the bad. Guy, and I love Mads Mikkelsen. So does Ray, absolutely in love with Mads Mikkelsen. And that was great. That was, like I say, that was a return to the original. So very well done, very family orientated, and a great love interest. And like I say, the scene at the end where Marion comes back and it's a full circle part to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Even the wording's the same. It's just that the actors are doing it the other way around. It was just so beautifully done and so poignant. And it was a nice way to end the Indiana Jones franchise. But with the Indiana Jones films, like I say, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it spawned 4 sequels, this TV series, and numerous computer games, Indiana Jones computer games. It's just a great franchise, with the exception of the Crystal Skull. But we don't talk about that one. So scores, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 9 out of 10, all day long. Absolutely love that film. Absolutely love it. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, 9 out of 10. Temple of Doom is a 7 out of 10. Last Crusade, yeah, right, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The Crystal Skull for me is a 4. I think it's really poor. But bizarrely, it's the highest grossing one of the series. Oh, and overall, 2.3 billion at the box office for the 5 series. And then the final film, Dial of Destiny, that's an 8 out of 10. Would have been a 7, but it's that final scene with Marion just elevates it that a bit more. But great films. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. The box set's great, with the exception of the Crystal Skull. But see what you think. Give us a look. Give us a watch. Give the films a watch. They're absolutely fantastic, like I say, and they're great family entertainment. So if you've got kids and everything, it's a great way to introduce them into action films and adventure films. Give us a watch. Give us a repost. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Give us a comment. And we'll be back next week with some more for you.